So those are just some of the closing arguments that we're hearing from the political parties as we head into the final weekend of this campaign. And to walk us through what we are seeing in the polls is Éric Grenier, polls analyst, founder, and writer behind the Writ. Hello to you, Éric.
Hi, Michael.
And we should note the fact that you're standing in front of the smart board that you'll actually be operating during our election special come Monday. So thank you for that. But right now, let's talk about your latest numbers, beginning with your top line. And we do have the other polls that you base your top line number at. And you know, when you look at this, some interesting numbers. Main Street have both the Liberals and Conservatives running fairly close to each other. Innovative actually has a tie between the two. But when you actually crunch these numbers and put them into your calculations, what are you finding?
Well, we do find that the Liberals are still holding the lead in the consensus of the polls. You're right, we've seen a handful of surveys that have put the margin more or less tied with the Liberals and the Conservatives, but on average, we're having the Liberals somewhere around 42% support when we're looking at the broader range of polls and the more that we're expecting to come out over the weekend. The Conservatives are just under 39%, so we've seen that the gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives has dropped from around the 5-6 point where it was perhaps before the debates, now to more of a 3 to 4 point range. The NDP still in a lot of trouble with under 9% support. But that Liberal lead nationally, 3 to 4 points, regionally speaking, it is a lot more significant, and it's one of the reasons why they're still favored to win the most seats.
Okay, still favored, but talk to us right now about where the Liberals may be vulnerable when you look at some of those numbers.
Yeah, there's a couple of places that the Liberals really need to make sure that they win them, they make their gains, and they make their holds in order to hold on to the seats projection that they are currently expected to make, which is around 190 seats that the Liberals would be projected to win right now. There's a couple of regions I would point to. One would be in Quebec is one, we can look at the results from the last election, especially in and around Montreal. Now, a lot of this area is currently held by the Bloc Québécois in the suburbs, north and south of Montreal. This is going to be a region where the Liberals are expected to make some gains, and it is one of the regions where it would deliver a majority government. But if we go back to look at another region of the country in Ontario, the Greater Toronto Area, of course, that is where elections are decided. These were the results in the last election. If this stays red, then the Liberals will be able to build on the kind of gains that they are expected to make in places like Quebec and British Columbia in order to get that majority government.
Okay, if they hold red, but as we say at this point, some of the tightening numbers, that's what we're going to be watching for very closely when it comes to the regions. But you know, let's get back a little bit to Quebec because you did mention where the Bloc were in the last election. How are things looking for the Bloc? Because you know, earlier this week there were polls indicating that the Quebec race was tightening.
Yeah, we are seeing that the Bloc is a little bit more competitive than it was, I would say, before the debate. A lot of the province, especially in the southern part of the province, which is where the election will be decided, was Bloc teal, if we can call it that, in the last election. There was the potential for the Liberals to make significant gains in Quebec. At one point, we only projected maybe 16 seats for the Bloc Québécois, so half of what they had in the last election. They're now over 20. They're projected to win maybe 22 seats. And so that is something that is limiting the Liberals' potential to win that majority government. They're still projected to make some gains in Quebec, again, primarily around the Montreal area. But it is now a bit more of an open question whether the Liberals will be able to make those gains and build that cushion past the 172 seats they need for that majority.
Okay, still a question, but of course you've crunched what you've seen so far into your seat projection. What are you thinking showing right now?
Well, we are showing that the Liberals are in that position to win a majority government. 190 seats is where they are in the projection. But if we take into account all those close races, all those toss-up races, there is the potential that if they all go to another party, the Bloc, the Conservatives, and the NDP, that the Liberals could find themselves in minority territory. So it's by no means a given that they're in majority territory at the moment, but that is what is the most likely outcome. The Conservatives are projected to win roughly as many seats as they had in the last election, so not really a lot of prospects for growth. While the Bloc Québécois, as I mentioned, could drop as many as 10 seats down to 22, and the NDP were projected to win 5 seats at the moment. But there is a big range of potential outcomes for them depending on how effective their incumbents would be to retain their vote and really survive what is a very rough election for the New Democrats.
Okay, so those are your projections and things that we're going to be watching out for. But, you know, I do want to raise the issue of Alberta because, you know, we've been talking on and off through the course of this campaign about potential Liberal gains in Alberta. How is that looking at this moment in time? Is that a possibility?
Well, we've seen that in the polls, the Liberals are doing better in Alberta. In around 28% support or so based on the averages of all the polls that are being done. And that is above where Justin Trudeau was in 2015 when they won 4 seats, 2 in Edmonton and 2 in Calgary. So I think there is the potential for the Liberals to replicate some of those gains that they made last time. A lot of blue, certainly in the rural parts of the province, but if we're talking about Edmonton, the NDP had 2 seats. With the change of boundaries, the Conservatives would have picked up Edmonton Centre. Could a lot of those ridings actually be pretty close? There's some discussion about the potential for the Liberals to make some gains there. And then also in Calgary. Calgary, they had Calgary McKnight last time. There is the potential for the Liberals to make a run at a number of seats in the province, but is it actually going to happen? I think that is the big question that we have in Alberta. The numbers suggest that the Liberals are competitive. It's just the reality of it, and it's one of the things we'll have to wait and see on Monday night.
Wait and see, and of course we'll be talking throughout the Monday special as we bring live coverage of the election results, and you'll be at the Smart Board. But for now, Éric, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.